What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly CineTech podcast.
Welcome everybody to episode 35 of CineD Focus Check. Johnny is on a shoot today. I have him here just on my mug. You know, he's shooting the multicam car show today for me. But I have a special guest, and we're the weirdos with the Vision Pros. Here's the major weirdo, Christoph Tilley from MXR Productions.
Thanks for having me. Try to be weird.
Try to be weird. So the reason why we actually have been talking about this for a while, I mean, we've worked together before. We've done, I mean, some of you guys who've seen some of our videos, Christoph Production Company actually did a little bit of a test of the producer software that we kind of reviewed with you guys, and you know, a couple other things. In the past, you actually reviewed a Hasselblad camera. Yeah. That's one of the most popular videos on the CineD channel still. And now you're completely diving into virtual production for the Vision Pro. Now, video production for the Vision Pro is still something that is a bit of a mystery, I guess. Just tell me how you got started in this and why you think it makes sense.
I don't know if it makes sense, but actually we just think it's really cool. So it all started when I got hands on the Vision Pro back in February this year, 2024, and I was looking at the demo content from Apple, the immersive demo content, and I think it was mind blowing, right? So seeing the content, kind of gave me the feeling this is the future. Like, it amazed me so much that I really wanted to get learning and see how this is done. So I was playing around a little bit, but you know, it's like just the first steps. And then to really get it working, I was showcasing the Apple demo to different clients of us. Like, we have this big sports shoe company, Asics, we're working for, and I showed to. Should I take this off as well?
You can. I mean, I can't really see your eyes. You know? Like, for people who are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we're actually wearing Vision Pros while we're talking. It's a bit weird. I mean, it feels like when you wear it, it really seems like you're looking through glasses. Actually, it doesn't feel like you're looking at a screen because the resolution is so high. But you know, just looking at it still takes you out of the reality for other people who are looking at you.
That's true. People don't really realize that you are looking through, that you see the world as it is, right? So people just don't know that you're looking at them, which is actually funny.
And the whole thing with Apple uses in their promotion that you see the eyes in front is not really. I mean, you really have to look very closely to see something. So I think that's a feature they can definitely drop. Yeah. But let's talk about that later.
So actually, let's recap real quick. I've got my hands on the Vision Pro back in February, and I saw the Apple demo content, and I was amazed by it. And I wanted to do something like this. I wanted to do immersive video, and we have this client we do a lot of videos for, like on a global scale. It's Asics, it's the global shoe brand, and I got a hold on one of their marketing guys, and I showed him the Apple Vision Pro, and I told him that I think it's really cool, and we should do something for that brand, because then they would be the first sports shoe brand to have something like this. But you know, but then time passed and nothing happened. And a couple of weeks, like two months later or something, he reached out to me and he said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do something. Let's make a video for the Vision Pro for Asics
for the Olympics, right?
For the Olympics, actually, around the Olympics." Yeah. And I was like, okay, whoa. And he had a specific idea in mind. He wanted to shoot a documentary about a training camp for professional athletes training at an altitude training camp. And he wanted to shoot an immersive documentary, because you cannot easily go there and watch the professional athletes train. So it's actually kind of an interesting experience to see how these professional athletes prepare for the Olympics. So it's an interesting documentary, and it's even more interesting if you shoot it in an immersive way, right? So I was like, okay, that's a very interesting project. I want to do it. And from that point on, I was investigating a little more how we can do it on the technical side, right? But so that this is how the first question was how we're going to shoot it, which camera.
But currently there is not a set process, right? That Apple or whoever else recommends on how to actually shoot video for it.
Exactly. There's nothing, right? There's just like, there is content from Apple. There is some VR 180 content, or like even there's VR 360. There's VR content from the past, but nobody ever shot it apart from Apple, shot it for the Vision Pro, because that's much higher resolution than we had in the past for like for these kind of devices, for VR devices.
Each one of those two screens is 8K, right?
7K. I think it's 7K OLED screen per eye. So it's actually 7K displays on left and right. So, which is actually a pretty high resolution, I would say. That's actually, I think this is the reason why it looks so good, because the resolution is so high. And I think they go up to 120 frames per second. I think 90 to 120. I think it's 120. And Apple content is 90 frames per second. So you have to go super high resolution and super high frame rate to make it look really good. So technical side, how are we going to shoot it was one question. And the second actually for me, the biggest question was, how are we going to display it? Because when we got the offer to shoot something for Asics, there was no player available, so we couldn't play back any content on the Vision Pro apart from some dubious players, but they didn't work when they crashed all the time. So we had actually to make our own players.
So there's no official player like QuickTime for the Vision Pro from Apple?
No, you can import your videos into the Photos app, but then it doesn't play in an immersive way. It just plays in the window. And there is a special codec, which is kind of a wrapper for HEVC.
What about spatial video that you shoot on the iPhone?
That's actually the thing. This is exactly what the iPhone is recording in this MV-HEVC codec, and then you can actually import it to your Vision Pro, and then you see it in the window. Like,
it's just like in the Photos app.
It's like in the Photos app. Yeah.
Okay.
You can load it in the Files app, Files and Photos, but it's never like fully immersed. It's always in the window.
So it looks completely different from Apple's original experiences.
Exactly. It's totally different from the way Apple displays their own movies. So we had to come up with a solution, because we got that job from the Asics executive, and so we had to find a way to make it work. So I was reaching out to, I was looking at Reddit actually. I was googling and eventually found a guy. His name is James Hustler. He made the #1 immersive video player app for his own content in the App Store. He was just releasing it on Reddit a couple of days before I found him, and I chatted with him on Reddit actually if he's interested in commissioning his own app for branded experiences for clients like Asics. And he's from New Zealand, and he was interested, so he came to Europe and gave a little workshop how he shoots his own content for the Vision Pro. And then he commissioned his code for our clients.
Oh,
and so
it turned out he's a real hustler.
He's a real hustler. He's the hustler. He's the James Hustler. No, I really like him. He's very, very professional. He's a really cool guy. You should check out his content. His app is next level. It's really, really cool. And
what kind of content is he shooting?
His app is called POV Explore, and he's shooting immersive hiking videos, kind of like 2 to 3 minutes. Astonishing, breathtaking landscapes. Him walking around in New Zealand,
and he did all the programming and shooting.
Exactly. I think he has a developer. He hired a developer at some point to help him with the coding, but he's kind of that super nerdy, intelligent guy who does all by himself. And
it's a bit funny to me that you need to kind of hack your way into doing this, right? Exactly. Because you wonder, like, if there's one thing that we got feedback-wise from a lot of people who've reviewed the Vision Pro is that it's extremely impressive when you put it on. It's just like a different experience. It looks much higher resolution than any other VR experiences that people have used because of the high resolution screens. But what happened, even from people who like it, after a couple of weeks or months, a lot of people are saying, well, they don't put it on regularly. It's because so far, and we have to, let's leave the ball in the park or whatever the saying is, because it's a first generation product. But so the number of experiences you can have with it is limited. However, you wonder why they don't kind of motivate people more to shoot immersive experiences for it, because that could be a total. I mean, if there was like even a section in Apple TV Plus that is only. I mean, I guess they're working on it. I'm sure that like, that takes a lot of. We've seen the submersive. Submerged short film that we talked about last week on the podcast, and a lot of other things that I'm sure Apple is producing a lot of content for it. But I'm surprised they're not going full in. I mean, it's a bit of a chicken egg problem where the installed user base is very small, so putting millions and millions of production cost into new productions that a very limited amount of people can actually see is difficult. But then if you would open it up for third-party shooters, so kind of like, you know, because like what you said, I mean, I guess Asics and other brands, I mean, the challenge for them also will be they can only show this in dedicated venues where they will hand out the Vision Pro, right? Yeah. Like at the Olympics.
But actually, that's like we kind of hacked our own way to do this, because I think it's an interesting point. I think Apple is maybe reluctant to do that because at some point it's really hard to shoot. We found out after we got the job, and now
you're like, I can do it, and then it's difficult.
And then we learned, fuck, like actually that's really, really hard to shoot this content in the quality Apple is doing. So we played around a lot to really get there, and we just released our second movie for a different brand, for the Vision Pro, and we're still learning so much about how we're gonna shoot and how we even post production is the most crucial part about this. But I think Apple might not be super interested in opening it up for third party generated content, because it's really hard to
get it
right, and to make it look good. And if you
it's
open
easy
it up,
to make a bad 3D movie, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think if you just open up and the content is just bad, it will not make the device look
Makes
good.
Sense.
So we're one of the biggest commercial production companies in Austria, and we have a lot of technical expertise, a lot of stuff, and it was really a big challenge for us to get in the realm of the quality where Apple is. Of course, we don't have the cameras at our hands that Apple has, or the new Blackmagic immersive camera they're planning to release. So we are stuck to what's available today. So we are shooting either with the Red, the Raptor, the highest quality Red, or the Canon R5C or the new R5 Mark II, which are both cameras that are capable of shooting 8K. The Canon in 60 frames per second, or the Red in 120 frames per second, whereas the Canon is a little easier to shoot with because you have these VR kind of helping utilities built into the camera. But still, it's an 8K camera, right? So you have 7K displays per eye, so you would actually need at least 14K of resolution if you shoot with a dual lens, which means left and right eye baked into one lens. If you go kind of the old school Hobbit style 3D rigs with convergence rigs with a mirror and two cameras, it's a different story. But this is like kind of a different ballpark in kind of production budget, because you need crazy big rigs, you need these kind of special mirrors, you need a special convergent operator to make it not right. And I think post-production is even more complicated because you don't have these kind of predefined tools to get the convergence right. So we are stuck to using the Canon lens, actually, the dual fisheye one, with the cameras that are available right now, which is the Canon or the Red. So we shoot this way.
I guess you've seen we did a video at IBC about the Chinese company PD Movie. They made
that's interesting
convergence rig. Yeah. Apparently, there might be a patent around this from a different company, so we're not sure about that. But because we got an email from somebody else. But in general, the technology is out there, and it's getting. With this rig, you can build it with a relatively small mirrorless camera, so you could use 2 A1 cameras from Sony, for example, with 8K each. And
I think you can also. I saw some people using 2 GoPros next to each other, and then also use these as. But then it's actually it's not as straightforward as using the Canon lens, because the Canon lens you have the eye distance, the IPD, the distance between the two lenses, all this, and you kind of have these kind of streamlined workflows. We use Mistica VR. That's a special tool for VR post-production. We use this, and then we have these kind of pre-built presets for this lens. If you build your own rig, it's kind of a different process in post-production, and it takes even more time. So we haven't looked at that, but definitely interesting idea.
So I mean, Apple themselves used on the submerged. They used the Apple camera, which nobody knows who made it, or is it theirs, or is it just branded, or it's actually not branded. But what technology it's used, it might be maybe the Blackmagic 17K sensor. We've seen actually on the WWDC, Apple just showed for the first time the URSA Cine 17K with a dual fisheye lens, and then I think a day later, Blackmagic put out a statement because, oh yeah, actually we're doing that thing with Apple. I guess they caught them on the spot there. But none of these things are publicly available.
Exactly.
Well, I hope that Blackmagic will release this. I guess they will release this because otherwise Apple wouldn't have mentioned it. I guess that will probably be the first 17K camera which delivers the resolution you need.
Exactly.
And do you think that, Blackmagic really comes from the post-production? Do you think that the stuff that Mistica VR is doing now, which you said is a bit of a painful process, might be possible in DaVinci in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is where they're going, right? Because announcing their own immersive spatial camera and then updating their software to be able to do all that stuff that Mistica does inside DaVinci will save a lot of time when we shoot, for instance, spatial content. Because this is actually one of the most crucial parts where you choose your convergence point, where you choose all put your two lenses into a side-by-side final master file for grading, for finalizing and stuff. So I think having all this in DaVinci just makes sense. So yeah, I hope so. But right now there are some Fusion scripts for inside. You can use Fusion for that, but this is kind of not as straightforward as using Mistica right now.
We'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
1 Minute Tips by FUJIFILM and CineD. Let's talk about intention in documentary storytelling. I used to think doc was all about filming first and creating the story later in post. But then a great friend made me realize that a doc can be planned with a script, like a narrative. I was worried that scripting documentary subjects will detract from the authenticity, but I soon learned that was quite the opposite. So, how do we keep it authentic, especially in short doc format? Here are a few steps. Conduct a pre-interview with your subject. Write down all the important quotes and points and anything that they're passionate about. Then, structure that into an outline. Create actual scenes, story turns, and plot points with their own words carrying the narrative. Alongside the scripted outline, start to jot down visual inspiration, eventually crafting it into complete visual sequences, which would then inform your shot list. You now have a complete blueprint for production. You know what visuals to film, and you know which lines you want your subjects to say on camera, and you can be confident asking for it since those words are their own. This made such a huge change in my storytelling, and I hope this helps you get your creative gears turning as well.
And now back to the show.
Well, let's go back to the distribution part for a second.
Yeah.
So you had this guy, James Hustler, who made the app. So now you have an app. Is this a public app, or how do you actually distribute content?
So we have a public app which is all called MXR. MXR is our production company. MXR Immersive Lab, where we use it for prototyping our videos. So we airdrop the videos, the final files onto the goggles, and then use this app to load the videos and then play them back. So this is kind of for like testing reasons, because you cannot see how it looks like on a regular screen. You have to watch it in the device. I'm still curious how they did it at Submerged, where they had the kind of live feed from the cameras into the goggles, which would be super interesting, because right now monitoring on set the cameras is like not possible.
So how do you actually review stuff?
I DP'd and I directed these two movies, and at some point when I did the first movie, I just gave up monitoring, because the monitor is just to check focus, and focus is really critical. So you just zoom in, check focus, and then kind of try and stop down the lens as much as you can until like F8, so stop 8, because you don't want to go higher, because it will just get soft. You don't want to get lower, because it will get soft. So 5.6 to 8 is the sweet spot. So you just check focus, and then what I do, I just like step where the camera would be and just look with my own eyes. And if it looks good, this is what I'm going to shoot, because monitoring is just not possible.
So you almost need like a it's like shooting film. You need like a video mirror kind of thing.
We thought about using OBS, so some kind of dewarping, post-production dewarping the live image to kind of see, but then the resolution would not be high enough because it's like it's a 4K feed at best that we would dewarp, and then we'll have a delay and stuff. So actually, when you shoot documentary style with this kind of setup, you just have to look with your own eyes. And there's some stuff you really have to consider when shooting immersive video, which is number one is never roll the camera. Like the level, the roll level is crucial, because if you roll, people will like watch a movie like this, which will hold your head in like a weird way because it just looks off. So it has to be centered all the time. You will always need a gimbal or a tripod. You can never go handheld because other people will just go
throw up.
Yeah, throw up. They would get motion sick in no time. So
or you on a dolly or something
dolly. So but the dolly, the next thing is like you shoot 180 degrees in every angle. So you have everything in front of the lens is in frame. So you cannot have dolly tracks, because if you have dolly tracks below the camera, you will see them. So actually, the lens has to be the most front thing. So that's actually one more thing you need to consider. So the way I did it, I used a Movi Pro, like a gimbal. I put the camera inside and just like with the easy rig, just like walked very slowly, or put it on a tripod. Or for some shots we used like a crane, a scissor crane, and on dolly tracks, so we went way over the dolly track, so we don't see them below.
A Ronin 4D should work if you are able to.
Yeah, would work, but we, for these kind of professional shoots, you have a lot of accessories like video and all this time code and all this stuff built onto the camera. And with the Ronin, with the Movi on the ring, you can put a lot of stuff on top. Whereas on a smaller gimbal, you will not.
Yeah, but the Ronin 4D, you have the wireless video built in, the DJI transmission. You can have. I mean, I don't know if you can. The Canon dual lens,
I think it's too heavy.
Is RF. It's RF. Too heavy.
I think it might be too heavy.
Yeah.
But something like this would be actually very smart to have. It's actually interesting if DJI is going this way, because we didn't hear anything about immersive spatial video from DJI, and usually they are pretty upfront with.
Well, I guess it's a bit of a niche right now, but that's the question, right? I mean, it's a bit of a, like we said before, chicken egg problem. I mean,
exactly.
I wonder if there will be. Let's see if Meta's new, what is it called? They don't even have a name for it. I mean, the super expensive prototype glasses that they're showing. If that is catching on, because I guess, I mean, eventually you could kind of like convert everything you have also to other devices, right?
That's true, exactly, because you just have a VR 180 side-by-side master file, so you can actually adapt it to like YouTube VR or to anything. But right now we actually have our post-production process optimized for the Vision Pro, which is actually shooting all this stuff on a Canon or a Red, then going to offline edit where we dewarp the dual fisheye thing into like regular proxies for one eye, and then we just edit as we would edit any other movie. Only like we will cut a little slower. You cannot cut too fast because the immersive experience is just different from TikTok. So you will not have an attention span of 2 seconds because people already wear this device. So you got them. You can take your time. You don't have to be.
Well, actually, you have to. I think. I mean, you showed me. We can show it a little bit later. For people who are watching the video version without the Vision Pro, you showed me one commercial you made for a bank, and which is about tennis. The open tennis open that's here in Vienna right now, and I actually thought, I mean, the shots are great, but I even thought, you can hold it even longer.
Yeah, you could,
because you're you're looking around, and then you're already like, cut.
Yeah. I would, but the creative agency we're working with, they are specialized in social content, and we stretched as far as we can. They are like, cut faster. So no, it's an immersive experience. We have to have the shots a little longer. But this is, I'm considering myself not the youngest filmmaker anymore. I was young when I started out, but right now I enjoy shots that, that are pretty and beautiful and take a little longer to. And this is why I really like shooting immersive, like directing immersive videos, because you can take your time and.
Which other? I mean, you talked about a few things, but I mean, what other, from a cinematography standpoint, if you work on a production like that for traditional screens, I mean, you would approach a lot of things very differently, I guess. What's actually what's limiting and what's actually expanding possibilities here, except for the 3D effect, obviously.
So the first Asics movie I shot was a documentary, right? But the second one that you mentioned right now, the one I shot for the bank, for the tennis experience for the bank, was a narrative, was a scripted movie, and I co-wrote the script with the agency, and I brought my expertise from what works in immersive space, what works in a spatial movie, and what doesn't work. So I think everything that's kind of breaks the third wall, that goes through for instance, people looking at you. So when you have an actor breaking the third wall, looking around and then looking at you, looking at the camera, this is like super immersive moment, because then you think this person is looking at me.
You feel like caught, right? I saw it's like, oh my God, she's
looking at me.
And she's like there.
This is funny. So, and things flying into camera. So that's why one of the most important shots for that commercial was, for me, that there's a ball flying into the camera. And it's funny because when I showed you the movie like a couple of minutes before, everybody is like, when the ball is flying into camera, everybody's like, whoa, like everybody's going back. So this is like, it's like a roller coaster ride. Yeah. This is interesting. So breaking this wall of, of course the shot looks cool in 2D in a regular screen as well, but you cannot compare it to wearing it in the goggles, because that's so much more immersive. This is interesting. And also playing with different depths. For instance, we have one scene where there's one guy struggling with his serve. He's like very frustrated, and he kicks a basket of tennis balls, and the basket falls in front of the camera, and it falls towards the camera. And all the balls fly out of the basket, which is like a very interesting moment, because you get all these kind of depth effects inside in this immersive experience. And then we cut to the scene where where another guy is like believing in himself and being on the court and picking up a ball and making the match point, which you can play with these perspectives in a different way from a directing perspective than you would with a regular movie. And this is the kind of what makes storytelling even more interesting in a spatial world.
Actually, now that we're talking about it, I mean, like every time, I almost feel like 3D in general is like, it comes around every decade, right? It's like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
10 years ago, we had these 3D TVs, and they wanted to sell us 3D TVs, and they were talking about this as if it was the next thing, and then it kind of disappeared into nowhere.
Comes and goes all the time.
And it's been like that for as long as I can think, and I think it's also been around for 100-something years. I mean, since the invention of motion picture, I think people have experimented with 3D. Now, it's just a different way of experiencing it, being completely immersed, having these goggles, not on a screen, so just being surrounded by it. But we have the content, right? I mean, the content, there's a lot of 3D content out there, and I'm not talking about all 3D kind of got a bad reputation because once they wanted to lure us into cinemas again, showing 3D content, which wasn't really shot with two cameras, but just in post-production, and it was badly done. Yeah. Even average mainstream audiences at some point realized that it's not worth it, and it's not worth the extra. And then that meant that even the productions that were shot on 3D kind of suffered from that, because people weren't actually, for example, 3D animated movies, which always looked much better in 3D because they were actually perfectly rendered for that,
and scripted
for that. But they were actually done for 3D because they could just render each eye separately, and that was not the case anymore for real movies, for reality, which meant they were just post. And then they got a bad reputation, and then kind of the whole thing faded away. And I think there's a lot of content that was made for 3D that Apple or whoever on Netflix could just convert for their immersive experience hardware, whatever, and then just sell again. I'm just surprised it's not happening. Like Apple TV, they could just tomorrow they could just decide to license all of that content and just sell it as separate apps or just as a subscription or whatever.
I mean, I think I think there's a big possibility we're going to sit here in 10 years again and talk about. You remember when we talked about the Vision Pro? We thought it's going to be a breakthrough, but it might be, because I think it's a good sign that Apple is investing heavily into this. I think it always comes down to usability, and if people really like use it. I think the Apple Vision Pro right now is much too expensive for like the mainstream users. But I think that at some point we have to come up with something new, right? So like was no breakthrough in the media entertainment industry last couple of years. I mean, HDR, okay, higher resolution, 8K, who needs that, right? So, like I said, like watching an immersive movie is a whole different experience when you watch the Apple content, for instance, than what was there in the last couple of years. So there's a possibility that it will stay, and I think it will not be the narrative, the scripted things. I think it will be sport events, concerts, and this stuff that's really interesting. If you watch the Apple content they shot during that football, soccer events. This is, or like basketball, the NBA stuff in immersive, being right next on the sideline, watching your favorite game. I think this is something that really could be interesting for many, many people.
Yeah, that, and also, I mean, one of the challenges, of course, is like when we talked about this off camera before, is that you're really taking yourself out of your surroundings. Exactly. I mean, and then you don't have the feeling if you have it on, because you kind of see everything around you and it looks real because of the high resolution. But everybody who's looking at you is like, who's this weirdo?
What is he doing?
It's like, and they don't realize that you don't see them.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
It just kind of takes you out of that, and that leads me to the next point, which is like, I think a lower cost version that doesn't have these displays in front, that is actually a little bit more than what Meta made, which is looking like a real glasses, might make it a more social experience, I guess.
I mean, look at us. We're wearing these, but we're not looking through these. But it's not because the displays are not good, or why? Because it doesn't look at it. The reason is actually it's different to look into someone else's eyes, right? I can see your expression in clearer, and it's a much more natural human experience.
What do you mean clearer? You can't see my expression like this?
I mean, I can see your mouth. Yeah, but that's the difference. I think people just want to see the other one's eyes. But it's different. I wear my Vision Pro. I really like to wear them when I come home from work, and I just want to relax. I watch YouTube. I watch CineD all the time.
You have to say it now.
On YouTube, and I just can relax, because usually I watch something on my iPad, and then I will be on my sofa, and it will at some point fall on my face when I fall asleep. But this cannot happen with the Vision Pro, and
it happens to the best of us, but you're the only one honest about it.
Yeah. No, it happened before, so it does not happen on the Vision Pro. At some point, you just like wake up and the battery died, and you're complete. It's pitch black, and you just freak out for a second.
But I think a really cool experience would be, imagine like a concert, but a live concert. Yeah. And because we all know those, I mean, after COVID, everybody, like, concerts have exploded again, like some of the biggest stars like Taylor Swift and so on. I mean, they're doing tons of concerts, and they're all selling out because everybody wants to have that experience, that communal experience again. And it's getting harder and harder to actually, I mean, concert tickets gets more expensive. It doesn't matter. People, they still sell out because people want to have that experience. And then imagine having an experience like that, and then live with your friends, like putting this on, and you're like, oh, actually, are you going to that concert? Like, are you?
You're there. Right?
You're gonna be there. We can be in the audience next to each other, maybe, like with an avatar or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that would be cool. Even if it's not live, honestly. I mean, even if it's like a recording, and they kind of fake. Like, that's a business idea here. Having an avatar of you next to me, experiencing the artist we both like. That could be something that is really something where a lot of people would consider buying something like that.
But there's a good point Apple is going there, because they have this shared experience, right? You already have it. They kind of have this kind of watching a movie together, and then they're kind of sharing your experience, like being live there with your friends. This is something that's interesting. But I think, like culture, like also for showing concerts, showing sport events, this is where this device really shines.
But if you, like, we're talking mostly to filmmakers here, like us, if people want to film stuff for the Vision Pro, where should they start? Is that something you like? I mean, you're still pioneering this right now, but I guess it's a good time to get into it because I mean, a lot of people are saying, like Vision Pro is a failure in terms of like sales, but I just keep reminding people, think of the first generation iPhone, think of the first generation iPod, what people said, even the iMac. Like every time Apple releases a new product, there's so much skepticism around it. When the first iPod came out, they were like, oh, we have a, like everybody's had a MP3 player at the time already. Oh, well, they're never going to be successful with it. Same with with the iPhone, it was a little bit less, but same thing. I mean, it was like there was no app store. It was very slow. A lot of things didn't work. I think even the first demo that they did on stage with Steve Jobs announcing it, like a lot of stuff was fake because the hardware wasn't there yet. And the first generation arguably was kind of like more like a prototype. And I bought the 3G, the second generation, because I knew the first one wouldn't do what they promised, and it's usually the case with a lot of Apple products. I mean, I had the first iMac, which didn't have any way to save anything. Like you didn't have it has a CD reader, but it couldn't burn CDs, and it only had USB 2. And at the time, the internet was not fast enough to just save everything in the cloud. So, I mean, anyway, but I just remind people that the first generation version of an Apple product is usually not where it's going, but by the second one it starts catching on, and that's just my guess with this here. So if somebody goes into, so that's why I think it's a great idea to actually go full into producing video content for it, because I'm this space will open up if and when they release a cheaper, more affordable second generation product.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had the first iPhone. I had because I was just amazed at what Apple did with that, and I just wanted to have one. So I imported one from the US, like I did with the Apple Vision Pro. I also did the same thing. So it's actually a lot of similarities going on, and the most important, the most interesting similarity between the first iPhone and the Vision Pro for me is that when I remember back in the day when I had my iPhone, I went around and I showed people, friends, this device. Everybody was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And they saw pinching, like a picture like this, a phone without buttons. All the people had the Nokias back then with the big, like, small screens and big buttons, and it was like, "Whoa, a phone without buttons! Like, how would you even use that?"
That's exactly. A lot of people were like, "You cannot use a phone without buttons."
Exactly, and have the same reactions and same experience when I showed people the Vision Pro. Everybody back in the day, everybody was like, "Whoa, this is magic," and same thing happened with the Vision Pro. People put on the device and they try out the interface. They see the movies. They try out the environments, and everybody is blown away.
Apple are usually never the first ones with something. They just let the others make the mistakes and then roll out something that actually has a great user experience, and that has an amazing user experience. I'm amazed by the sound quality too. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're wearing headphones, really good. Like really good headphones, but you don't have anything in your ears or around your ears. It's crazy. Yeah, and the experience, and that's the problem, right? Like if you haven't tried it, you don't understand. So you need to put one on, and I guess that's the challenge they have to just get it in as many on as many people's heads to try as possible. But I mean, I hope the production. I hope also to be able to shoot something for this and just try it out, and I hope that the whole process will get more streamlined. Yeah,
I mean, I can give you a quick glimpse of how we did it actually, and how how are we doing? How are we're still refining our workflow. But right now we're shooting in 8K, 60 frames or like 120 frames on the red, and then have these offline edits and stuff. And then when we go online, when we kind of have a finished cut and we want to online and put it on the device, we go through Mistica to make this kind of actually, first step would be to grade it, because we want to grade from the raw files. So we grade it, but grading is kind of not a very creative grade, because it should look like the real world, right? It's just like a color correction more. You don't get too creative, because if you put on like some grain or halation, it will just kill the immersive experience. So we would just like make it look as real as possible and match the colors as much as you can. And then next, even more important step would be denoising, because it's actually the final movie has to resemble what you see with your own eyes, but you can have a little longer shutter. If it's very dark, you kind of have a little longer shutter with your own eyes. Stuff gets a little blurry, but you will never have noise, digital noise or grain with your own eyes, because this is not how our eyes work, right? So noise or digital or grain just kills the immersive experience to my eyes. So denoising is super important. So we will use some sophisticated denoising with neat video in Resolve from the 8K raw footage. So this takes some processing power to denoise it. And then after we denoised it and graded it, denoised it, we export some color masters, we call it. And then these color masters get upscaled. So basically, first these color masters go into Mistica. We do the convergence. So we have kind of final side-by-side movies that are kind of the master files that go into the Vision Pro. But before we finish it, we're going through upscaling, so a very intensive upscaling process. Like I said, we shoot in 8K RAW, which is not enough resolution for the Vision Pro because you have 7K display per eye. You will need at least 7K per eye, which means 14K for both eyes. So what we do, we use our 8K color master, and we use Topaz AI, which is an upscaling application, to upscale to 16K, because double the resolution with Topaz, and this takes a lot of time, which we have some beefy computers with like two 4090 GTXs, which renders like 0.5 frames per second, and it's 60 frames per second. So a 3 minutes movie takes a lot of time and a lot of processing power to upscale. But this takes away the whole noise, because the upscaler also takes care of the last bits of noise that are left in the master, and it improves detail a lot. So actually, that's the biggest difference to make our content look really good, is to go through some extensive AI upscaling. So we have the upscaled 16K movie, and then we use a special tool by a guy called Mike Swanson. He wrote a script. It's publicly available to encode MV HEVC movies. This is the one that Apple Vision Pro can play back. It's a kind of a special flavor of HEVC, H265, to make like a final file for the Vision Pro from that upscaled 16K file. This is the process.
But that is one, of course, the upscaling process would be something you can drop as soon as you have a high enough resolution camera.
This is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the cameras.
We don't have the URSA Cine 17K yet, but we have the 12K here to test right now. So
yeah, it could be interesting. Does it have an RF mount? Can we mount the Canon Dual fisheye?
Shoot me. I think it's PL.
Yeah, that's the point. Because
you have an adapter.
I mean, we could try an adapter.
No, actually.
No,
that doesn't work. The other way around.
It's the other way around. I think that's why I think we would have thought about that. But you will need the dual fisheye lens to work. That's why I think we're just stuck to the RF cameras.
So we'll have to wait for that URSA 17K with that lens, which is I don't know who makes that lens actually. It's like I
think it looks like the Canon one. Why would they? Why would they make their own lenses? I think the Canon one's really good. It's pretty sharp for a dual fisheye lens. The only thing is like you really about the focus, right? It's really hard to get focus inside, and you have to check both lenses because sometimes the left eye is in focus, the right eye is not. So you have to kind of go in the middle.
But any plans to make something, for yourself or whatever, like a creative piece that you want to put on the App Store, for example, as an app?
Yeah,
I mean that could be, like shoot a music video.
I was thinking
just give it away for free.
Exactly.
I mean, you will have to go through Apple's app submission process, I guess.
Yeah. So we released our own app, which is called the MXR Immersive Lab, which is the prototyping video player app. So when we can actually distribute movies about this inside this app, or like distribute it over Google Drive or like own cloud storage, and then have people download it and load it into the app and it plays back. So this is already working. But of course, I did a lot of test movies I can actually share. For instance, my little son riding his bike through the woods and stuff like this. That's pretty interesting. And I also did some some immersive nature shots and stuff that to actually test what looks good and what doesn't. But there are some projects I really want to do, which is, for instance, shooting a concert, like you said, or I really want to do actually something a little more caritative, stuff like pro bono stuff. I was thinking about going to refugee camps and to shoot an immersive piece there and really showcase how people live there. For instance, for Caritas, something like this. I'm in talks right now. So because I think this is a perfect platform for experiences you will not have if you are not there.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, great idea. And also exploring places that you couldn't go to.
Yeah,
like going to the jungle or whatever.
There was one agency guy. I told a lot of creative people about this, and he came up with the idea to go to the front line in the war zone, which would be like super interesting. But
Don't do it. Don't.
But I talked to my wife about it, and she was not too happy, so I'm not going.
Good idea. Yeah, there's limits to what you should do. But I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, just literally going to places that are very hard to get access to.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, even like if there was a movie about exploring the wreckage of the Titanic or something like that,
Super interesting.
don't use that submersive thing that imploded. But like there's other ways. We'll just have to call James Cameron. I mean, I'm sure he will be very happy to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things, and why not put it out as a separate app for each movie, and then
So that's actually a very good point, because then like coming back to the story when we like had our first movie for Asics, which was like how we have this with James Hustler, like the guy who made our app, was actually we thought about this was like the next step would be how we're gonna show people, because we know not many people have this device, right? So Asics was planning to not release the movie to the public, but kind of have this, we call it booth experience, where we have several devices in a room, and people go inside the room and put on the device and start watching the movie right away in our app we make for them. But the thing is, it's usually these devices are personal devices, so you have to calibrate them to your own eyes to make the interface work for you. So this takes a couple of minutes. You just did it like before the show, so it takes some time, and you cannot have in a kind of booth experience have everybody do the calibration process.
Yeah, you kind of need the staff
exactly.
to help them.
It would just take too long, and you will need the staff to put people through the process. So the thing is, if you use someone else's goggles and you're not calibrated to their eyes, you can watch everything, but you will just your interaction will just be off. So you will be clicking somewhere you will not want to click. It's like always a little off. Like, let's say a couple of centimeters.
But it doesn't take too long. I mean, I guess you could do it if you have one person there who's helping people to adjust.
But still, it takes some minutes. And I think in a booth, in like a venue, or where people don't have too much time, it's not very feasible actually. Yeah. So what we did, because we make our own video player app, we just came up with the idea to make the play button really large. So when people put on the goggles and it's not calibrated to their own eyes, they cannot miss. And it's actually it's even bonus. People have interaction. So basically they look at stuff, and for the tennis bank app, we even used a rotating tennis ball as a play button, which looks cool in 3D. So people look at the tennis ball, at this humongous tennis ball, and they just like put on their squint their pinch their fingers, and the video starts. We can have a look at this.
Yeah, actually, for people who are watching the video version of this,
I think we should restart the screen recording. I think because when we took it off.
Yeah. How to do that? Whoops. So for people listening, we're just now putting on the Vision Pro again and trying to look at that app that Christoph just mentioned.
So I have it here. So I have my little ball. I can rotate it, and this is actually So right now I'm looking at the app we did for the tennis experience, and I have the ball.
Oh yeah, so the huge ball is the play button.
And if you squint, if you pinch your fingers, the video starts playing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the video for a second. I mean, you mentioned a lot of those experiences. So this is you walking with a Movi Pro.
Exactly.
How can I turn down the volume?
Looking at turning here and looking at the right, and looking at the volume.
So I'm not screaming at our audience. So Yeah, so actually most of the shots, actually now that I watch it the second time, I realized that the camera is moving more than I thought.
Yeah, it's always moving actually.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
So we are looking at some people playing tennis in a huge court, and then a little boy also playing. And it's really, I mean, it's really impressive. What do you, like in terms of, what you do see is a little bit of a shutter effect.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that the frame rate or?
So basically, to make it as sharp and as good as possible with the technology we have right now, we have to go really high bit rate. So this is 200 to 300 megabits per second in H.265, and it's sometimes when the movement is really high, the frame rate just drops on the device, but we cannot control it. The only way to avoid this is to go lower with the bit rate, which would mean that it's not as sharp as anymore.
Oh, I can actually see my hands on the video.
This is different from the Apple TV. This we actually kept it, so you can watch your own hands, and you can screen record, because if you screen record the Apple TV content, it will just be black.
Okay, so you're saying the shutter effect is because
sometimes the frame rate drops, on the device. But I mean, it's an M3 chip inside, and we're playing back H.265 movie in 300 megabits per second, which is a lot of hit on the processor, right? And you also have the spatial computing going on, which actually, if you try to play it back on your MacBook Pro, it also might drop the frame rate at some point, because it's a lot of stuff to process at the same time.
So there was this guy, the tennis player, looking at the camera, and it looked like a slow motion shot. How fast did you shoot this?
No, we shot it. That's actually a good question. We shot it at 60 frames as well, but we used Topaz AI to
slow it down.
To slow it down.
Okay.
So if you don't have a lot of movement going on, these new AI models work really great in slowing down footage.
Incredible.
So we slowed it down 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the roller coaster ride. I mean, like everybody saw a 3D movie before, and like you said, anything that is kind of like in your face or close to your face has a really, really strong effect. I mean, you could literally shoot a roller coaster ride and just,
But I think if you shoot, because the thing is, I played around with different perspectives and different camera movements and camera angles. As long as you don't go too crazy with the camera angles, people will not get too motion sick. But I think if you, and I think a roller coaster ride will definitely be too much. People will just like sit somewhere and like just throw up or like be super motion sick in no time.
Yeah. Man, the boutique experience you mentioned is definitely something that I think has a lot of potential for clients, like for commercial clients specifically. Because there's so many shops there, and yes, it takes some adjustment, but I think there's a lot that can be done. And also, like for caritative work, just putting people really there.
Exactly.
And that's something that I can see.
I mean, you can also like the stuff we're still exploring right now is also the use of regular video, like 2D shot regular movies. In combination with VR content. So basically you can have a screen inside an VR environment. So you can shoot, for instance, like a very nice landscape, scenery, whatever, and have a regular movie inside that VR landscape as a screen. Or you can put some 3D models inside a regular movie. So you can have, and actually Gucci did it for their app, which is super interesting. They shot a regular movie and then kind of enhanced it with AR stuff going around that movie. So actually I think the possibilities are endless. And we are
it's also a great way of actually showcasing stuff, because if you think about it, I mean, we go to these industry trade shows all the time, and then people are showing us new cameras, new lenses, whatever. It's very hard to see. I mean, you see the physical product, but you don't really see what they produce. And they will put it on the screen, and then it's very hard to see because of all the surrounding light and the noise and all the people. And just showcasing, for example, the qualities of a new lens, like you said, like shoot a normal movie, but you put it on the Vision Pro, and then people just put it on, and then you demonstrate it. And I think it's much better to actually showcase it.
And there's one big upside people always forget about. You have a calibrated device and you have a kind of a light sealed environment to look at. So basically, you are sure your audience is looking at exactly same pixels you are looking at when you finish the movie. So you will not have different screen sizes. You will not have different color grade. You will not have different color spaces on different displays. You will not have someone looking at, like, you know, a CEO of a company approving a 500K commercial on his shitty phone in bright sunlight and is then talking about colors, right? This is what happened to me before. You will not have this. You will have him watching this on a device in a light sealed environment, and you will know that he looks at exactly the same thing like you did before, which is
no distractions, full attention.
Big upside.
Awesome. Very, very interesting stuff. I hope we can repeat this at some point when we will have more access to cameras that can shoot stuff and make it a little bit more easy. We'll definitely can we put links below the video to see stuff for people who have a Vision Pro?
We can do that.
Yeah, so, you know, like, make it available. And I'm also looking forward. I mean, we'll try our best to get our hands on the URSA 17K from Blackmagic, and they'll definitely be in touch, shooting something with this if we can get it.
There's one thing I would like to ask you to put inside the movie. There's something I'm very proud about. When we shot that Asics commercial, it was showcased in the Asics Olympic House in Paris during the Olympics, and there was one guy. I'm not the biggest fan, but, you know, of course, he's one of my idols, Novak Djokovic, the biggest tennis player ever. He watched the movie I shot on the Vision Pro, and his reaction for me was priceless.
And you filmed that?
Yeah, we got a behind the scenes where he reacted to what he saw.
Yeah, we can show that.
And if you show that, we make very proud, because, you know, the biggest tennis player I was a tennis player. I'm a tennis player. I wanted to be a tennis professional myself. That's why I started the whole movie business. So this was a big moment for me to make something that guy appreciated.
Well done, amazing. Fantastic.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Congratulations. This is a wonderful idea. Well done. No, really. Wow.
Awesome. So he watched the bank commercial?
No, he watched the Asics.
The Asics
documentary I shot in the Altitude Training Camp. And
awesome. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Christoph. Good luck with everything. And let's see if we sit again here in 10 years, but hopefully it's much sooner, to talk about what a big success this pioneering work shooting for the Vision Pro was. And see you next time. And thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can get podcasts. Leave a comment, leave a like, share it with your friends. We need a bigger audience. And see you next week.
Bonus points if you watch it on a Vision Pro.
Oh, yeah. You can do that. You can do that. Well, just people can send us screenshots to podcast@cined.com. You will get a mention next week if you do that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.